Ah, yes, Austro-Hungary, the land of all Austrians and Hungarians alike, or maybe not. It was a diverse empire with a lot of communities and minorities. Keep in mind, every ex-Yugoslavian country was once part of it. So it is understandable why the football aspect was so diverse in the short years of this empire's existence. In this video we will talk about the football league and try to get a better understanding on the topic and the complex mechanics that were put in place by the country itself. Well, to be specific, there never actually was one big league, including all of the component states. It is a stretch also to say that each of them had a separate quote-unquote thing going on. In a nutshell, Hungary had a fully professional league ever since 1901, making it the first one to have so. The league being called Nemzeti Bajnokság 1, or MB1 for short. Being the founders always come with benefits, and this was no exception. They could pick and choose the players they wanted or did not want. That's why Puskás stayed there for like 14 years and became a legend. Do not get me started on the army scheme also. The army scheme was basically a way of getting every single player you wanted into your team without having to pay them a lot or without them refusing you. So basically, besides getting the first pick, if the footballer did not want to come play for that Hungarian team, and it had to be specifically an army team, they could hold him by force and cover it up as army training. The worst part is that you could not say no, or you risk your life, or worse, your family or your loved ones. This approach seemed to work wonders though. Hungary were having a strong league but also strong specific teams, the army teams of course. The Magyars were also making deep runs in the Champions League. It is also specifically worth mentioning Ferencváros and Fece Újpest here for achieving constant underdog stories and beating rivals twice as big as them. But with every successful thing, copycats emerged and it was bound to happen eventually. I am of course talking about the second country in the name, Austria. They were the second region to make an independent and pro league called One Classe, starting 10 years later in 1911. Again, being the second ones to the party, they also benefited from more range of choice, being only second to the Hungarians and of course Germany, something that Hungarians did not have to go through. You see, the Hungarian league had the advantage of always being in contention for top competitions, reaching semi-finals and finals in the Champions League. This meant that a lot of players picked the Austro-Hungarian ranks instead of some German weak teams. Now, of course, if Bayern fucking München came asking you, and the mighty Újpest were also looking for your signature, of course you would go for the Bavarians and not the mighty team from Hungary, although I love Újpest. Okay, but now we are talking about Austria and the teams from there, so let's get back to the topic. Széchenyi Rapid Wien is arguably the most successful one, which it sort of still is to this day, with around 32 league titles. I say arguably because the fucks over at Red Bull keep buying football teams that are really historical, and they turn them into commercial income workhorses that are also hated by their own fans. In this case, I'm talking about Red Bull Salzburg. Red Bull has literally took first place from their hands in recent times, getting their European qualifications and specifically the money they get from qualifying into European competitions, of course. I personally think that this is a disgrace for this sport because they literally steal everything, plus they get players handed out to them from the other Red Bull owned teams, which makes it really unfair. I also forgot to mention all of the money they made from selling players as well. At least 100 million in the last 5 to 10 years, which is unfair for the Austrian league. Overall, a lot of teams that existed and succeeded in the Austrian-Hungarian times are not even a thing anymore or are bought and heavily franchised, something that the Hungarians learned to avoid and cherish their teams. Hungary this, Hungary that, I know, but it's clear that they pretty much influenced football in the area. I mean, they were so good that everyone sort of played and tried to suck up to them and fulfill all of their needs. So, besides these two countries, Austria and Hungary, what happened to the countless other countries that were part of the empire? Well, the answer is not so simple. Czechoslovakia or Bohemia, being united under the royal crown and not being separated in two, did not even have a league. Rather, they had a lot of semi-professional clubs or even amateur sides which played against Hungarian clubs with friendlies on small competitions called county cups, where a bunch of clubs in the same position gathered and play for fun. Eventually, they also became a pro league, but that was many years after they regained their independence from the Austro-Hungarians. But here is the kicker. For Croatia, it was different. But to understand this situation, we have to understand the great independence wars that marked the fall of Austria-Hungary. The empire was already really fragile because every country component had different beliefs and political systems. So when the opportunity came, they took it, even the Hungarians themselves. Most of them were sort of without bloodshed, but Croatia was way different. You see, the conflict sort of evolved into a trench war that took out a lot of lives, and it got so bad that they had nothing to eat and they were cut out from the world basically, with no supplies or no connection to the outside. One of the many reasons they wanted independence is that they wanted to stop having a handful of clubs and become a real football league with professional associations so that they could more easily arrange matches with other clubs from the monarchy. The irony being that after the grueling war, a federation was made along with the country of Croatia, but the football league was called Yugoslavian. Due to even more pressure, after 10 years, they even moved the headquarters from Zagreb to Serbia and Belgrade specifically. This, coupled with the integration of Croatia and Yugoslavia, undermined every and all authority and recognition they would have or had gotten up until that point. So, in order to sort of get back, they decided that all of the players born in Croatia would not participate in the first World Cup, which caused Yugo to fall and bottom out that year. Eventually, a consensus was reached that gave them a bit of peace of mind and made them happy enough to send players to future World Cups. Clubs like Dinamo Zagreb or Hajduk Split were finally getting recognized face value and also getting sort of help, achieving participations in the finals in Champions Leagues and getting close to winning some as well. At the end of the day, Austro-Hungary was not long-lived as an empire, but with a lot of the component countries were not being really treated as equals in many ways, not only football-wise. Some, although, got way more options and opportunities, and here I'm talking about Hungary and Austria, while others were stuck in endless wars for independence, not getting recognized as real football leagues, and getting assimilated into another conglomerate of countries that mistreated you. I am of course talking about Croatia here. History is made on people that never give up and impose their own opinion always, no matter the cost though. The collapse of Austro-Hungary marked the end of a road, but the start of another, harder but fairer road for most of the leagues and countries involved. This goes to show that all of them can perform under pressure and actually achieve huge European results. Now, if we're also talking about the fall of Greater Hungary and the Treaty of Trianon, which basically gave Transylvania to Romania, we can also say that Romania has had one Champions League winner, and that was FCSB in 1986. But that, my friends, is a story for another time.